And we'll wait till Unity gets up and running. At least I can go to my website. Course content. I think this one first. I don't think I marked. Let's see. I got to share system audio too when I do that, otherwise you can't hear it. Nope, it was already checked. Okay, now just to show you where we're headed, we're going to start working on animation in Unity. Different types of animation. One of them is where you can just do animation of parts that you have on here. One of them where you can bring in a sprite sheet, and then you can have an animation there. And then you can have an external animation that you've created. You can bring in and run that. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on animation. Okay, so if I bring in a picture, so I'm going to right click down here and choose import new asset, and go to pictures and bring the Pink Panther. Now I'm just introducing some general concepts here, so it'll make more sense when we're looking through the video, what we're talking about and so forth. Now I have an animation tab here, but you probably don't to begin with. Let's see if I remember where that's at. I usually just have it. There it is. Windows, animation, animation. Now I'm not sure where that'll be on your screen, but if you have it up like somewhere up here, you can grab the tab here with your left mouse button, drag, and drop it into there. And it's always just keep animation handy there. Now, if we want to animate this, then you see it says to begin animating ping, create a animator and animation clip. So you just click create, give it some kind of name. It puts on a ANIM extension on the end of it. Save. Now, if I click add property, I can expand this. You see I got transform, position, rotation, scale. Also got a sprite render, which is quite a bit of things we could change on it. What do I want? Position, yeah, position. Okay, so to run this, there's a play option here. You see where my mouse is. It'll keep playing it until you stop it. Not too exciting. We had our starting right here. Then over here we had our ending. Now, if I expand this, you see I got position X, position Y, and position Z. I can type in whatever I want here. Maybe I want this to be -9. And I want this to be 0, maybe. Then I come over here. And again, you can change these. Now this is a timeline just like Blender, where I can move up here and move it wherever I want. Maybe I'll move it to the 0.30 here. And I need to create a key. I don't think it's that property. There it is. Just right click on it and choose add key. So now you see it's moving a little bit like that. Now I'm over here at this key. I could have this say 0, 0, 0. And you see it moving back. Reason why it's moving back is because this over here is original starting. If I want this over on the other side of the screen, then it changes position.x to 9, like that. And I think I changed the wrong place. 9 there. 9. I need to create a new key over here. Okay, so you right click on that, and delete those keys, right click over here, add key. If you don't quite got them in the right place, you can highlight them or select them, and then you can move them to wherever you want. Okay, so now that's 9. This is, go back to here, this would be -9. And now it should do what I want. Yeah. There's also an animator window. So if I do window, animation, animator, that's this one right here. And again, I would just leave it as a tab here if it's, again, not docked, it's floating. What you do is you grab the tab, and you drag and drop it next to the asset store. Sure. It's not seconds. Um, I don't know how you map those to actual time because the time varies based upon what machine you're on. Remember, we use that delta time. I'll have to dig into that to see how to map those. Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure there's some way to map this to the delta time that we've been looking at. I just don't know what it is. Okay. Now you notice if I go back to the project over here, I got the Pink Panther here, and then I got some other items currently showing. And got this pink here, and you see this. Here's our loop time. loop pose, and cycle offset. There's also a pink here. I didn't bring up a whole lot on that. These have their own. See how we got speed here? So I can change that to 0.25. But again, this still doesn't map it to it doesn't map it to the delta time. That's part I'm drawing a blank on how in the world do you do that. Now if I run that, you don't. Should have ran it before changing that speed. There's 1.0. But again, depending upon your machine, how powerful machine you have, memory wise and performance wise, then that would go across the different speeds, which isn't what you want. Entry is where you're coming into the game, and it's going to run this animation right here. And I thought there was a parameter for looping, but I'm sure not seeing it. Unless this is it, where I can uncheck that and it won't loop. Let's see. Not that it matters, because we're going to be using code eventually to perform the animation. Okay, that was what stops it from looping. Now, if I go back to my animation window here, and go back to the scene. Now, these will be based upon position here. I had to choose a Pink Panther. Okay. Wondering why it wasn't moving. Have to have the object actually selected. But you can do other properties. Like if I click Add Property, Sprite Renderer, and you see this color. And if I expand that, we got our RGB color. I'm gonna right click on, okay, I already got the key there. You come over here. All right, there. Got my red, and I'll choose Add Key. It just adds it specifically to whatever I have selected over here. And that should change the color. Could be I don't understand enough about how color works, though. Let me add a key here too. This doesn't work unless you play the animation. Let's see. Huh. No, I don't see it changing colors. I can see it on timeline here. You can see the red, green, and blue changing as I move it across there. Okay, let me come up here and I'm gonna uncheck the Pink Panther and choose Green Game Object, 2D Object, Sprite. Yeah, no, it didn't work that hard. Delete that. I swear there's some place where you can create a rectangle. Real easy. And that's bad because I was just looking at it this morning. 2D object sprite. I know where I was creating it. You just come down here. And there it is. So right click sprites, square. Okay, so I got that there. Let me go to my animation. I got my square selected now, so the animation will be based on it. And let's see, create square animation, add property, sprite render, color. If I hold on my shift key, I can select multiple ones here. Let me move my timeline. Right click over here, choose add key. Almost looks like it just selected. Okay, let me right click on that, add key, and add key. Okay, so red, I'll change this to 500. I'm just seeing if the color is changing on this. 500. I'm probably messed up on something with the colors. Changing. Yeah, let's go watch a video. Now notice when this character is going, it's bouncing up and down, and this is where your creativity comes in play in that, and that I'm lacking. After watching this video, I can make my character bounce up and down now, but before that, I wouldn't have thought of it. It's a very simple idea. You just have to understand how to create these keyframes down here and how to change your position and so forth. One thing to note here, you can download 2D game characters, and good ones are set up this way. So that they got separate pieces like that. And so when you import it in, if they're separate, then it's easier to rotate the legs, for example, make it look like it's running. Good. Let's see. Or maybe not. Oh, there it goes. I don't know if I get any 2D models. So I should change that. Texture maps. Although I'd just have you create a very simple one so you wouldn't have to go that kind of effort. But I'm expecting if you go to the asset store, you might be able to find free models. If you haven't played with the asset store yet, you should. Um, come over here. You say you want 2D assets, and somewhere there's a price. Change down the price I can afford. You got to change it to 0. Yeah. So some of these assets you'll find out here are pretty good. Some not so good. So here's a sprite sheet free, which we'll be talking about sprite sheets a lot more. Okay. Now, what he was doing here is just changing the position is to go up a little bit. Because if you have a position go up a little bit and then down, it looks like it's going up and down. You don't have to have a huge amount of frames down here if you're going to have it constantly go up and down. Notice he's got this enable disable keyframe recording mode on. So he's got here. And see how when you move it with that, automatically creates your keyframes. So that's another way you can do it. I move something further on here. There. And if I shut that off and click play, you can see how it does that. So if I run that, you see them both doing it at the same time. Because the animator, you see, is for the squares running on entry. So when the game starts, it runs the square animation that we did. If I click the Pink Panther and come over here, you see the entry does on a Pink Panther also. So you can't think of it as like one timeline like you could in Blender. It's more of different timelines for different characters. And timeline, you associate the animation with the timeline. You associate that with an action. Like if you do your right arrow key, maybe that's when you want your character's feet to move. If you do left arrow key, you want to move. If you're not pushing A button, you want your character to just bounce up and down, something like that. What that means is what I did here. They say don't do this. And I was just playing anyway to show you. But Pink Panther's coming over here. Even the square you see it on. Once it reaches this end here, it transports back over to here. And if you want your character to be animated, you want it to go to the right, and then go back to the left, and then go back to the right, and so forth. So you need to put more keyframes in there and have it fill in everything in between. And that's what it tries to do. It tries to intelligently tell, this is where it's at in the middle. This is where it's at the end. It tries to intelligently fill everything in between. That's a. This is, by the way, this is a dope sheet. The dope sheet that we're working with. There's also curves. Now, I'm not very good with curves, but guess I can't get to the top of that very easy. So when you have like your green here, you can move that up like that and back to dope sheet. if you choose the down arrow here right here, he did it so fast you may not have saw it. But here's where we can create a new animation clip. And so then you got pink 2 and how you flip back and forth between them. You got pink 2, you can come back here to pink. He's saying we don't actually animate the jump. We can control that with the rigid body. Remember the rigid body 2D where you have gravity applied and your character just falls down. So we let the natural physics built in handle that. So you don't actually animate it going from here up to here and then down like that. That's what we're talking about when I shut off that loop time before and I quit looping over and over. You just some animations shouldn't be done over and over. It should just be done once. Okay. What he's talking about is when you're over here and you got your picture, you can use your mouse wheel to scroll in. You can hold down the mouse wheel to move it, and so forth. Typically, the exit is over here. You don't usually need it showing. Up here, we got parameters, and there's a little plus right here. And if I choose a plus, I can choose Boolean. Float, we've already seen, is a number with decimals. Integer is a number with no decimals. Boolean is true or false, and trigger is like you trigger something to happen. So when he's typing or choosing Boolean, then that's popping up there. And he's giving it the name. Okay, so he called it is running. So I'm gonna right click or double click on it, I guess. Is running. So that's what he's talking about. And this being checked is whether it's true to begin with or false. I think if it's unchecked, I think it's false to begin with. He's talking about take your, we don't got an idle state, but you'll see the idea. Um, See, I right click on the entry here and you make transition, and then you can draw a line over to wherever you want to transition to. I don't know what in the world that would do if I had, because I'm moving a Pink Panther, if I had two of them that really weren't talking in conjunction. I expect they'd probably work against each other. Because if I have one animation that's had my Pink Panther go across, and then I have another animation that's making it go the other direction, since they're working against each other, I'm guessing you don't need to move. But I don't know for sure. But that's transition they're talking about. If you click it, see it gives you more information about transition over here, and even the conditions. So we got this one selected. You notice the conditions list is empty if you do a plus, and then you can choose whatever variable you created, and when it's true. How do you think you can, will set that when the game's running? It would control it, but how do you think that gets set? Yeah, we're going to program this. So by you setting the true or false on it, then that'll cause the animation to either start or stop. So again, that's where the connection is. You got your C# code that's going to manipulate these conditions that'll automatically, like you say, let the controller do the animation. Okay, so he's going here, right clicking, making transition, having it go back. I may not be able to make a transition to the entry. Okay, let me come here, make transition, have it go down there. Um, Except for that's another animation. I can't do that. Oops. Control Z, put that back. There. Okay, so make transition, going over to here. Make transition to go back. Maybe I can't do anything. Well, let me create a state. And I'll call this idle. Okay. Now make transition. I right clicked on that, have them go down there. Right click on this, make transition, going back. I guess any state and entry, you can only go one direction. I didn't realize that, which makes sense. I guess the entry is only you're entering it from one location. But then that's what I'm talking about. This one here, You do condition, do the plus. That's true. And well, there's condition is running as false. Let's back up a little bit on that. We created a private animator anim here. Now, where that comes in is when we got our character here. There's animations tied directly to this character. We saw that when we created them down here. If we got a square, we got animations tied directly to the square. Okay, so we got an animation already attached to the object right here. When we do our add component, our pink move. Okay, so private animator NM. It's in above start. I thought we had to import it too, but I guess maybe not. Private animator NM. And then down here, M equals get component animator. Okay, so this is just declaring it right here, and then this is making the association. Well, what association? Our Pink Panther, if I select it right now, notice has an animator associated with it. And notice the controller says pink. So when we're doing this code right here, this is making the association code-wise with our animator that we have right here. Although we can do it via code, if I wanted, remember I had two animations for the Pink Panther. This right here, I could change it to the other animation we had, which I think I called Pink 2. Let me see if that's right. No, looks like we'd have to actually create another item here. But if we create another item, then we could drag and drop it on there. Now here's square. See, that's what I mean by dropping it on there. But I'd have to create a new controller in order to do that. See, create animator controller. Now, if I double click the Pink 2 that I just created, it'll bring up this state right here. So it goes back to your animator window. But that is a connection between them. Through your code, if I want you to, well, I didn't really specify, but if you wanted to control it via movement on your screen, movement on the screen would start your animation. What would you check? Input dot. Oh, go ahead. You could, or you could check input dot get key and do the key code dot write, and then within that, that's when you would set your boolean to running. So, for example, I don't have all the code here, but you get the idea. If I do if input dot get key code right arrow. And assuming I had the same boolean set up in my program that he has, then I would say animate dot set bool. Now that set bool. You also want to see there's a set trigger, set float. So it depends upon what you define a parameter as. Set boolean. Then we give it is running. That's the name of it. And then false. Okay, so when this hits this code, if you press the right arrow key, it comes out to animate boolean. It comes over here. Since this is associated with it, then it's always in here. The parameters up here, and when you set it true, that basically checks this box right here, and then it starts running. I wonder, this part I'm drawing a blank on. Um, when would we shut it off? I think that's where we do input dot. Yeah, this should work. Get key code, not get key up. Key code dot right arrow. And then I would take my boolean is running and set false. So imagine I'm pushing my right arrow key down. I'm holding it down. And while I'm holding it down, it fires off my is running animation. When I let up on the key, then it'll set it to false. So it won't be running the animation anymore. It'll trigger it to stop. We haven't looked at the key up and key down before, but those are useful for programming animation, probably among other things too. Does that make sense on how to start it and stop it in the code I'm asking you to create? Okay. Go back to the video. By the way, how he's doing that is up here. He's doing this input dot get access raw horizontal, and that's what's telling him whether it's moving right or left. So that's another way you could do it. Um, his is such that he's moving left or right because he's doing like a platform type game. If you had a different game where it could be moving vertical, you might also need to check that. But that's a different way of doing it. Person actually does have some really good videos. There's a lot of those I can program that, but to get it to look good is things that you can tell he's got a lot of experience on that. Mine look very blocky and so forth. Now, let's see. I put a project out here. Create an animation with your own generated character. Have it change based upon events. So, right arrow key, you could run the animation, and you do that with like setting a Boolean flag, and then through your code set that Boolean. What we just talked about there. So nothing exciting is what I'm looking for there. Our next step, and don't worry about this video because um, we're not gonna worry about that for today. But it's importing a sprite sheet. What a sprite sheet is, I don't know if I can find one or not. Thumbnail. With a sprite sheet, you have different images that will cause it to look like it's changing. And so you'll flip back and forth between images. It's kind of like the idea of a flip book. If ever did that when you were in art class or something, where you draw a different picture on each page, but then it'd be a little bit different, and you flip the pages and it appear like it's animating. That's a concept behind this. Um, and they really do work out best, so you don't have to have it if they have the same width. So like this right here, if this width is the same as this width, then it really does work out best. But this is how you switch back and forth between the little red ghost moving around and little red ghost becoming scared ghost, and then becoming a white, almost done being scared and back to attacking you type of deal. But we'll look at that next time. Is there any questions on that? Now you see right up here, we got our facing right, facing left, facing up, facing down. These are getting changes you can make depending upon if it's moving. If it's not moving, I don't even know what Pac-Man looks like. Maybe he just looks like that and so forth. Um, oh, is it? Oh, okay. Um, yeah, I have to watch that before the next class. But yeah, you can get different effects with these. But yeah, the rest of the time to work on that. I know I didn't give you a whole lot of time today to work on that, but